We're seeing signs of housing affordability improving in today's market, so that's what we're going to deep dive on today.
I keep it real, I keep it real, I keep it real, just keep it real.
Hey guys, it's Sam Hartman, Keeping It Real Estate in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And as always, I want to deep dive in the most pertinent real estate topics that are on the minds of consumers in the real estate world today. And today we're going to look at housing affordability. There are three key factors that affect housing affordability for buyers out there. And those three things are your income, interest rates, and prices. If you didn't see my latest video, I just released a video talking all about prices, but we're going to talk about all three of these things a little bit today. So basically, if we want housing affordability to improve for you as a home buyer today, we want one of three things or multiple things to happen. We want you to make a shit ton more money. That sure would help make housing more affordable. Or we want interest rates to come down. That's going to make housing more affordable for you. And then the last one, and again, I just released another video all about pricing, where things are at today and what projections are for the future. But the third one is pricing. We would want prices to come down to make that housing more affordable for you. So I can't talk much about what your income looks like, what your prospects might look like for future income. So that's a question you're going to have to answer yourself. But we can talk a little bit about what's happening with mortgage rates and prices. But I want to go back to income. And I want you to consider asking yourself three questions if you are wondering if now is a good time to buy a house. As a home buyer, if you can answer yes to these three questions, then I want you to at least explore the next steps. And so question number one is my job a stable job? Are you feeling safe and secure in your employment? Is this a job you expect to be able to hang on to for a long time, that you're happy with and that you see yourself being in the near future? Number two is my income secure and stable? Maybe you're a salesperson where a large chunk of your income is driven by commissions, and where a recession or other economic factors could make you a little bit nervous about your prospects and your future income. So is your income secure? If you can answer yes to that, we'll move on to the third question. And the third question is this somewhere I want to live? We all know those people out there that are wanderlust, that never stay in one place for too long, always looking to the next move or the next city or the next opportunity. So are you one of those people, or is this a place that you love to call home? Are you currently renting and you're comfortable in this community and this is a place you can see yourself planting roots? So if you're a home buyer out there and you can answer yes to those three questions, I want you to reach out. I want you to explore taking the next steps towards home ownership. But now stay with me, because we're going to talk all about the factors that might help you make a decision because of the improving affordability in today's real estate market. One of the biggest factors that has been affecting affordability has been the volatility in mortgage rates. Mortgage rates have spiked up above 7%, which often will lead to a very weak buyer demand. And as they come down, though, as the interest rates have been tempering, as we've been showing a bit more stability with the Federal Reserve's economic policy and what to expect from them, interest rates have started to trickle back down. And this graph is a great example of the highs in over 7% interest rates down to where we're at today, below 6.5%. So when we get below 6.5%, if we get below 6%, we really start to see the buyers out in the market, that demand, start to regenerate. People start coming back to the market, start considering, okay, now a home is more affordable for me and my family. Now, I want to caveat this, because what I just said is good advice for all buyers, that lower interest rates will lead to more affordability. But if you're a buyer in today's market, or if you bought recently with higher interest rates, I still want to congratulate you. I think it was a great decision. And here's why. You bought that home in a market with less buyer demand and less buyer competition. That means you had more negotiating power at that time. So buyers, beware that as interest rates do start to come down and make that house more affordable for you, it might backfire because the competition for those homes is also going to increase. So that's something you need to be aware of as you consider the timing of when to buy a house, if now's the right time to buy a house, and all of those considerations. I get the question all the time, is now a good time to buy a house? And I can't answer that for people. But what I can tell you is that no matter when you buy a house, there will be challenges. There will be difficulties. There will be obstacles. So pick your difficulty. What is the difficulty you're willing to deal with? Are you willing to deal with rising rents, or are you willing to deal with maybe a little tighter budget in purchasing a home? All great questions to ask yourself. If you need help asking the right questions, reach out to me and I will help you along in the process to figure out, is now the right time for buying a home? So we'll go to a quote now from Nadia Evangelou, the Director of Real Estate Research with the National Association of Realtors. Nadia says, with rates below 6.5%, more Americans can purchase the median-priced home. If mortgage rates continue to move down, the housing market may rebound faster than expected. And this goes right back to the point that I just made. As those interest rates start to come down, the market will rebound, that buyer demand is going to come back to the market, and competition is going to increase for the few number of homes that are out there on the market. And so let's look at another graph here that kind of portrays this quote in a visual sense, and it shows you how the interest rates affect buyer demand. And you can see that above 7%, buyer demand is very weak. And it's not that there's not buyers out there that want to buy homes. It's just that as it peaks over 7%, that buyer demand becomes very weak. But as you drop 0.5% to 6.5%, that demand strengthens. Below 6%, it gets stronger and stronger. So as these rates begin to temper, hopefully they continue this downward trajectory, that buyer demand is continuing to come to market. So here is the challenge for most home buyers out there. Here's a graph going back to January of 21, where interest rates were low, home prices were on the rise, but they didn't see the meteoric rise quite yet that we saw over the following 2 years from now. And so that is kind of the last positive affordability trajectory that we had on a year-to-year basis. And ever since then, affordability has gotten worse, month after month, year after year for consumers. And so that's the challenge. That is the empathy that I want to extend to home shoppers out there. I get it. It sucks. It's tough. You feel like you missed out or you missed the opportunity. But there's opportunities back before 2021 that people would have looked at and said, I missed out. So the time you need to look at is not in the past, but it's in today's market. What's happening today, what might happen in the future, what are our expectations and projections to find out if now's the right time to buy. But what I want to look at is the back half of this graph. You see that the affordability has kind of bottomed out and we're starting an upward trajectory now in the back half of 2022 when interest rates kind of peaked at the 7% and they've kind of been a little volatile since then, but they've really started to kind of stay on a more downward trajectory since October of 22. So that is increasing the affordability, and that affordability window is starting, that gap is starting to close. All right, now we're going to zoom out from this graph. That graph was a small snapshot from January 21 to today. We're going to take that affordability picture and we're going to zoom out, and you can see now the affordability where we have been and where we're at in a historic level. And so the orange bars there, those are the housing crash years. Those are when values across the nation really took a hit. On average, markets took a 20% hit in the value of homes, which is what really increased the affordability of these homes in that time frame. I want to highlight though that Fort Wayne, Indiana's market during the same time frame of price reductions only reduced values by 5%. So although the national average was 20%, Fort Wayne stayed very strong, very steady, and very conservative in their response to that economic crisis that began in 2008. But as we zoomed out, as you can see these low levels of affordability these last 2 years, you can see that it has risen just slightly over the previous year. So we're seeing those positive indicators. All right, so we're zooming back in now on a smaller window of that housing affordability graph. And so you can see there's a dotted line going through this graph here, right at that 100 measurement. And what that line is telling us is that the median income can afford the median priced home. So that's how values of homes and incomes in a certain area are working with and against each other. So as incomes increase, that increases the affordability. As prices increase, it decreases affordability. But this is showing us that if this measurement is over 100, that the average income, the median income in an area can afford the median priced home in that same area. So it is positive that it's over 100 and increasing, but there certainly have been some recent times where that was below 100, and that is where buyers and consumers have really been feeling the tightness of their budget and the strain and the stress of buying a home in today's market. All right, Sam, all these numbers and graphs are great, but I'm confused. I'm overwhelmed. Just like, what does this mean for my budget? What does this mean for my numbers and the money that I'm spending on a mortgage? And so here is another great graph. And again, sorry, another graph if I'm losing you. But it's a great graph that shows the monthly mortgage payments from January of 2021 to January of 2023. And so you can see the ebbs and flows as interest rates rose and rose and rose. You see that those mortgage payments go from low 1,000s. This is average monthly mortgage payments from the low 1,000s, rising, those green bars, that's great affordability, up into the yellow where it caps over $1,500. This is the principal and interest of your mortgage. And then it peaks there in October of 2022. And this is where those interest rates were living at 7%. And that was the driving force of housing affordability and what really made houses a lot more difficult to afford for consumers out there. So you can see there in October of 22, it was over $2,000 a month of principal and interest. But since then, the following months, we have seen that affordability start to temper and come back down. So these are the positive signs that we're seeing in today's market, that housing affordability is starting to return to the market. And as always, real estate is hyper local. The full picture of the nation cannot necessarily paint the picture for a region or a state or even a city. So this paints a little bit better picture of how that median income and that median priced home correlates together for affordability in the different regions across the U.S. So you can see here the national average income, the median income is just over $90,000, with the average qualifying income to afford a home. So this is not the money you're spending on a home, but this is just what they're considering the qualifying income to afford that median priced home is almost $87,000. So across the U.S., the affordability is on the positive side of the graph. So let's look at the Midwest here. This is one of the reasons I love the Midwest. This is one of the reasons I love our Fort Wayne, Indiana market, is because affordability. Yeah, we've got snow. Yeah, we've got cornfields instead of mountains. But guess what? Me and my family, we save money to take trips every year because our housing affordability is so low. And so that's one of the things I love about our market. So you can see in the Midwest, the average income is at just over $89,000, but the average qualifying income needed to afford the median priced home in the Midwest is only $60,000. $6,600. So that's huge affordability for the Midwest versus you look at where the West region is, the Californias, the Arizonas, the Idahos of the world. These are markets that saw huge price appreciation over the last couple of years. But you can see there with the average income, the median income, only $100,000, but the average median qualifying income needed to afford the median home is over $127,000. So be glad you're in the Midwest. If you don't live in the Midwest, hey, consider coming on out here, buying an affordable home, living a beautiful life in our lovely communities, and then take trips everywhere else that you want to visit and go. You don't need to live in paradise, you just need to visit paradise. All right, so I want to finish with one more graph, and this is an important graph because I'll often get questions from buyers wondering how much should they spend on a home. And so there is a recommendation out there from mortgage lenders that say the principal and interest of your mortgage payment should not exceed 25% of your income. And so that is kind of a great target, kind of great baseline to hit. And so you can see this graph kind of charts the percentages of income people were spending towards their mortgage payments. And you can see again, in October of 22, it really spiked because of those interest rates. The affordability really hurt people and they were spending above that projected kind of goal number that lenders want to see. But as the mortgage rates have tempered, so has that percentage being set. And the last reading is at 23.8% on average of people's income they're spending on their mortgage payment. So here's what I want to point out though. The people that bought a house in October and are maybe spending that higher percentage, they're going to refinance those mortgages and their affordability now is going to come back down. They're going to be below that 25% threshold when they refinance their home. And that is good for them as a homeowner, for their community, and for the health of our real estate market as a whole. All right, I lied. I've got one more chart for you. This is pulling up some information from my last video about home prices because I want to cover that last piece of this puzzle. And so this is taking national projections across the United States, and the national average projection of a bunch of experts in the field are expecting home prices to depreciate a little bit in 2023. And so you might see that as a home buyer and say, well, I don't want to buy a home that's going to depreciate in value, but here's how I see that as an opportunity, because these same experts are projecting price appreciation growth over the next 5 years, at least. And that's just at least. They're not projecting further out than that. So what I encourage you is, if the prices are potentially going to remain pretty flat this year or slightly decrease, that sounds like a great opportunity to me as a buyer to possibly have more negotiating power, to possibly increase my affordability of a home and get a home in a great time frame to ride another wave of price appreciation. Because let's be honest, if you're buying a home, I don't want you to move in less than 5 years. I want you to utilize the wealth building opportunities that home ownership presents to you. And so really you should plan to be in your home 5+ years. The national average is actually closer to 10 years now that people are staying and living in their home. So I want you to consider that. This is how prices are affecting that affordability. So that increase in affordability slightly is being affected by prices. But again, this is going back to the point that I made at the start of this video. If interest rates continue to come down, buyer demand is going to come up, and that is going to increase the competition in the market out there. Thank you so much for sticking with me, guys. I hope this was valuable information. I always just want to bring my expert advice, my expert knowledge and take on the market to help inform you and help create clarity for you as consumers in the real estate market. So I hope this has been valuable. If you know anyone that could value from this information, please share this video with them. Please like and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss the next one. And as always, guys, shoot me your questions. I'd love to cover them in my next video. And make sure you keep it real estate out there.